Yeehaw, I got snake eyes.
Generally, when I make these kind of videos, it's a straight 1 to 20 straightforward build, a single character explaining why each level and feat is appropriate for the character and why I think it'd be a good character to play. I honestly feel like that most characters that can be made aren't exactly 20th level characters, because I don't want to stress out the building of a 20th level character, filling out spaces that aren't appropriate for said character, because it can be tough and tiring. I'm going to try a different kind of build today. Some characters aren't combat oriented or particularly threatening, but they're nonetheless adventuring parties. So I want to take the time that I would be putting into making a 1 to 20 character and building the Wizard of Oz party in preparations for me making the Wicked Witch of the West build at some point. So let's start with the party. Who are we rolling up for this build? We need a girl who has a dog companion, a lion who's scared of everything, a heartless tin man with an axe, and a scarecrow without a brain that does a lot of talking, like a lot of people without brains. So let's start by taking a dip into Kansas and start with Dorothy.
Oh, you psycho glitter bitch!
We get 4 boosts at level 1, put them in the Constitution, Wisdom, Intelligence, Charisma. Dorothy isn't a physical combatant at all, really, so I think focusing on all her soft stats and Constitution as a safety is a good idea. She's a human, if you can believe it or not. She has 8 hit points, 25 base movement speed, and 2 boosts. I'll put them in Charisma and Wisdom. For her heritage, I'll go Versatile and pick Fleet for an extra 5 feet of movement because she can move quickly. And for her first level Ancestry feat, I'll pick Witch Warden. You get a +1 circumstance bonus to saving throws against curses, and to saving throws against spells cast by a witch or a hag, which is very useful if you're being attacked by a witch, because every success you roll on a saving throw against a curse or a spell is a critical success instead. For background, you're a farmhand because you were born in Kansas and you worked on a farm. You can put boosts into Constitution or Wisdom, pick Wisdom, and everyone pick Charisma. You're trained in Athletics, and you get the Farming Lore skill. You also get the Assurance skill feat for Athletics, which means you have a baseline skill feat. You don't need to roll for it. For class, we need to start off with an Animal Companion, and the best Animal Companions in the game usually come from Rangers, so let's go Ranger. You're an expert in Perception, Fortitude, Reflex, but you're trained in Will saves. You're trained in Nature, you're trained in Survival, and you're trained in a number of skills equal to 4 plus your Intelligence modifier, so right now it's 5. Pick Performance, Society, Deception, Diplomacy, and Occultism, the last one for the Witch. You're trained in Simple Weapons, Martial Weapons, Unarmed Attacks. You're also trained in Light Armor, Medium Armor, and Unarmed Defense. I wouldn't worry about any of those though. You wear a dress and you're not really exactly hitting people with your basket. You're also trained in the Ranger class DC. For Hunt Prey, you're not really using Precise and you're not using Flurry, so we're going to opt for the third one, Outwit. You get a +2 bonus to Deception checks, Intimidation checks, Stealth checks, any checks to recall knowledge about your prey, and a +1 bonus against that prey in your AC. What we're really here for is for an Animal Companion at level 1. Pick a small wolf, because that's our substitute for a dog. They get a D8 for piercing damage, 6 health. They have a speed of 40, which means Toto can move pretty fast. They have a scent that's imprecise for 30 feet, which means that Toto can track things as well. And a support benefit, it reads as your wolf tears tendons with each opening, which sounds intense, but you know a Toto can bite, I guess, really hard. And that's our first character, Dorothy. Now let's move on to the next one, which is the Scarecrow.
Who did it? Who killed him? Where's Scarecrow?
You get 4 boosts at level 1, put them in the Constitution, Dexterity, Intelligence, and Charisma. Charisma because you can sing, Intelligence because we need to get ourselves a brain, Constitution because you can take a punch despite being made of straw, and Dexterity because at some point you do grab a gun, and we need to represent that in the build, at least in some way. I had a hard time figuring out what Scarecrow was supposed to be, because he's a scarecrow, doesn't really do anything other than that. And I feel like an appropriate heritage for the Scarecrow would probably be like a Flesh Warp, especially one with a startling appearance. You get 10 hit points for being a Flesh Warp, you have 25 base movement speed, you get 2 boosts to your Ancestry, I'd pick Constitution and Charisma. And as a created Flesh Warp, which would be your heritage, your manufactured body is durable, so you don't need to eat and you can't starve. And you also get a +2 bonus to saving throws against diseases, which is great because you're made of straw. And a startling appearance, you're trained in Intimidation, and you get the Intimidating Glare feat as a bonus feat, which is great because you're supposed to scare crows. You're a farmhand like Dorothy because you're a scarecrow. Background, again, you get your Constitution and Charisma up. You're trained in Athletics, Farming Lore, and the Assurance skill with Athletics. For class, I feel like if anyone was a bard, it would be Scarecrow. He likes to dance, he's a little jolly, he likes to sing. You get a boost to your Charisma. You're an expert in Perception, you're trained in Fortitude and Reflex saves, but you're an expert in Will saves. You're trained in Occultism, you're trained in Performance, you're trained in number skills equal to 4 plus your Intelligence modifier. So 5, I would pick Acrobatics, Deception, Diplomacy, Nature, and Society. because we live in a society. You're trained in simple weapons. You're also trained the longsword, rapier, sap, short bow, short sword, and the whip. You're also trained on arm strikes. Sadly, I don't think we'll be able to get a gun, but we can figure out how to get a gun later in the game, I guess. You're also trained in light armor and untrained in everything else. You're also trained in occult spell attacks and occult spell DCs. As a bard, I think he's a polymath who really wants to learn about nature and learn about the world. He just wants to be smart. He's not exactly looking to start an orchestra or anything like that. Through his spell repertoire, you get 5 cantrips and 2 first level spells. I would get Daze, Guidance, Forbidding Word, Knowing Direction, and Shield as your cantrips. For your 2 first level spells, I'll get Illusionary Disguise and Soothe. The Disguise to pretend to be a guard, and Soothe to help your companions out. As a polymath, you get a versatile performance feat, and you get the Unseen Servant to your spell repertoire. None of these are really in character except for versatile performance, but that's okay. Let's move from Scarecrow to the Fearsome Lion.
Nothing! I'm leaving! But if you have extra courage, I'd haul it away for you, maybe?
Oh, blithery poop, my cowardly lobster! You don't need courage. After all, who needs courage when you have a gun?
While we won't be making a lobster, we will be making a catfolk, and at the first level we can put points into charisma, dexterity, constitution, and strength. He's more of a hardier character, more of a brawn than brain, so we'll be focusing on wisdom and intelligence, mostly because he's not very smart and he's very scared of everything. One would say afraid. One would say cowardly. As a catfolk, you get boost to your dexterity, your charisma, and a free one. I'll put in the constitution for some extra health, as well as a negative to your wisdom, which is fine because we're dumping it, a coward. For background, I would pick feral child, raised by animals because you are an animal. You're trained in nature and survival. You get low light vision, you get scent for 30 feet like Toto, and I would put your boost into strength. For your class boost, I would pick strength because you're going to be a barbarian. You're an expert in perception. You're an expert in fortitude and will saves. And you're trained in reflex saves. You're trained in athletics. You're also trained in a number of skills equal to your intelligence modifier. Pick intimidation, performance, and stealth, which is really good for a more melee-focused character like Lion is. He's the brawn in the party. You're trained in simple weapons, martial weapons, and armed strikes. You're trained in light armor, medium armor, unarmored defense, and barbarian class DC. As a barbarian, you get the rage. You deal a +2 additional damage with melee strikes, and these damage is halved. Your weapon is agile. You get -1 to your AC. You can't use the action with the concentrate trait unless they have the rage trait, and you can seek while raging. And for animal instinct, I feel like cat's appropriate because you are a cat. You have a jaw attack that deals 1d10, and a claw slashing attack deals 1d6. The barbarian feat, I think we should focus on you being intimidating and scary because you're a lion. And there's an ability, so you can use demoralize and scare to death while you're raging, which is pretty good. Lastly, we have the Tin Man.
He's not a guy, he's a machine.
RoboCop, the future of law enforcement.
You get 4 boosts level 1. I'll put them in the strength, constitution, wisdom, and charisma. Dexterity is going to take a minus because he's not particularly very fast. He is made of tin after all. Strength and constitution because you wield a big axe and you need to take a hit. Wisdom, charisma because you have a lot of heart for someone without a heart. And you can sing, which is why we're going to boost charisma. While there are no Tin Men in Pathfinder 2, there are androids, which will basically be the same thing. As an android, you get boost to your dexterity, your intelligence, 1 free boost, but you get a negative to your charisma. I'll say take your free boost and put it into charisma, so you don't lose anything on charisma, because he is a very sociable, very likable kind of guy, and I want to be able to represent that in the build. As an android, you can pick what kind of android you are. I personally pick laborer. I think that's pretty good for you because you're out working in the woods all day. You get a boost to your strength, and an extra one I give it to charisma. You're trained in athletics and the labor lore skill. You get a hefty hauler skill feat. It's pretty good. You're hauling wood everywhere. For your ancestry feat, I would pick android lore. Become trained in both crafting and thievery. If you already have one of those trained skills already, you can be trained in something else. When I think of the Tin Man, who's mostly this big guy who wields a big axe, I think fighter would probably be an appropriate class for him. You get a boost to your strength. You're an expert in perception, fortitude, reflex saves, and trained in will saves. You're trained in acrobatics or athletics. I would pick acrobatic. You're trained in a number of additional skills equal to 3 plus your intelligence modifier, so 4. Your performance, intimidation, survival, and diplomacy. You're an expert in simple, martial, and armed attacks, and you're also trained in advanced weapons if you ever get a hold of like a shotgun or something. Or, if the Scarecrow lends you his pistol. You're trained in all armor, you're trained in unarmored defense. You're also trained in the fighter class DC. As a fighter, you get attack opportunity. A creature within your reach uses manipulate action or move action, makes a ranged attack, or leaves your square. Any point during its movement, you can make a melee strike against them without having it count towards your melee attack penalty. For a fighter feat, when I think of a big heavy axe swing, I think of power attack. This counts as 2 attacks when you're calculating your multiple attack penalty. If the strike hits, you deal an extra die worth of damage, which with a great axe would be 1d12. So you'd be rolling 2d12, which is pretty good for a heavy strike. You would get shield block, but you don't have to worry about shield block because the Tin Man doesn't use a shield. Sorry, but he doesn't. With all that being said, you want to go off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz? We hear he is a whiz of a whiz if ever a whiz there was. Well, let's start with party composition. You have a fighter and barbarian to fill out the front ranks with their attack opportunities, rage damage, and lots of health to keep the back line safe. You have a ranger to fill in the ranks in the middle with an animal companion to assist them. And with hunt prey, she'll have extra abilities outside of combat to be able to deal with the witch. And for the backline, we have the bard with magic spells and all kinds of charisma, so we may not have to fight anything. We have an animal companion capable of following a scent, have a great variety of skills from all different sources within our party, but there's a lack of magical diversity in said party, especially with the Scarecrow being the only one who's magically inclined. The only other two are more melee focused, and Dorothy is not really a traditional combatant, so you might face some trouble there. But this is a fun party composition, with high charisma all around for great opportunities with role-playing with NPCs. The Lollipop Guild, the monkeys, the actual Wizard of Oz, and of course everyone in the Land of Oz. So tie your ruby slippers, skip along to Oz, and go somewhere over the rainbow. Just get educated, because her sister was a witch.
Right? And what was her sister? A princess!